put it. No? So what I'm saying is that while they pretend to be aware that market or their economic ruthless activity doesn't really matter, this is how probably Bill Gates experiences himself. Oh, the vanity of my billions, I really want to help the poor, the children now, and so on. But I claim reality is the opposite. This is a hamster. They use this to disavow the fact that their reality is what they are doing, not in this fake spirituality, and so on and so on. So again, my argument against cynicism is that it doesn't work. In its very ruthless brutality, like typical cynic says, listen, who cares about love? What matters is pleasure, money, power. You know, this brutal realism always fails, it's too naive. All cynics need something that is sacred. They usually don't want even to talk publicly about it. Like in my books, the example, it's a beautiful one, of this cynical fetish that I usually quote is, you know, Patricia Highsmith, I think the greatest detective writer of the 20th century. She wrote a wonderful short story called The Button, like what I don't have. It's about a miserable New York middle-class guy who is relatively successful in life, happily married. The problem is that his child is a Mongoloid. How do you call it? This really retarded, okay, it's politically incorrect term. Sorry? Oh, yeah, you are more political. No, I'm brutal here. Mongoloid, sorry. The furthest I will go is a member of the country between Russia and China, you know, if this makes it more politically correct. No, political correctness is not my good side. Okay, what I want to say is that, so really, handicapped child, you know, just smiles stupidly, cannot even talk normally. So out of total despair, one evening he goes out, sees a homeless guy alone in the street who approaches him asking him some money, and all his frustrated fury explodes. He beats this guy to death, takes one button, puts it into his pocket, and his life is changed. From that one on, this is his fetish. At least once I did strike back, and this, then from then on, whenever he is desperate at his child, he just touches the button. Okay, I did strike back once, it's not hopeless. And the paradox is that even his relation to his child gets much better, he can educate it a little bit, and so on and so on. So you see how differently they function. Fetish is a lie which allows you to sustain the brutality of social reality. So on the contrary, symptom is the truth which undermines the lie which you live. In this sense, you know, don't underestimate the fetishists. They are not idiots. They are not people who, I don't know, are fixed on a leg and then think only about that or not. They can be extremely realist because fetish allows them not to be too much affected by it. So again, these are the two basic coordinates. Where my idea is that the traditional ideology functioned as symptom, in a symptomal way. Like you had the general propositions, all men are equal, and then upon a close analysis you find symptoms which belied it. Like, you know, this classical Marxist analysis. All men are equal, but then you look closely and you see that in this apparently general definition, some men are more equal than others, how should I put it? All of a sudden you see that all are equal, but women are not really as equal as men, children are not, foreigners are not, primitives so-called, criminals are not, and so on, and at the end, not many of them remain. No, so here you do the symptomal reading. When a liberal tells you human rights, this is the standard Marxist praxis, no? To demonstrate how secretly, in this apparently universal definition, a certain strata, sex, whatever, is privileged. Like as every, and they are right here, as every member of Oriental countries will tell you, the very list of West European human rights accentuates individual choice at the expense of collective identity, so it already implies a certain individualistic society. It's not really neutral. Or then we can go into sexuality, although there things are more tricky, I think. More tricky in the sense that, you know, for example, one of, and I think this is bad feminism, one of the feminist critiques of human rights is that they rationalize the subject too much. They emphasize reason at the expense of emotional ties, and in this sense they privilege masculine against feminine identity. But I think if you accept this, you buy another terrifying cliché, which I think is, from my experience, maybe I live in a crazy society, but among the people who I know, men are crazy, irrational, you know what I mean? Women, so, you know what I mean? You privilege already certain cliché here. So, but, okay, doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that this would be the classical functioning of ideology. Today, more and more, we are getting the fetishist functioning. Cynicism, public cynicism, connected with this secret fetishist belief. Now I will, but here we should develop things further and introduce two types of fetishism. I think it's crucial to distinguish them. We have first this, let's call it permissive cynical fetishism. This is, I claim, typical of highly developed societies. No, like you are cynical, orgies, whatever, but you have your secret which in your eyes makes you authentic. You know, this is typical brutal rich men's, like I exploit you, beat you, and then, but secretly, oh, but I'm really doing for my son, for my family, I'm secretly good, whatever. Okay, but there is another kind of much more brutal fetishism, which is recently gaining ground, so-called, let's call it, potentially fascist populist fetishism. Its basic form, but now it's universalized, is anti-Semitism. How does this one function in contrast with classical liberal ideology? It's very interesting how is the opposition structured. With classical liberal ideology, again, it's that symptomal logic. That is to say, what you can reproach to it is that its universality is a false universality. Again, as I told you, when they talk about equality and human rights, you can show by detailed analysis how these neutral universal human rights are not really as universal as they appear, that secretly some is privileged, and so on and so on.